Going to go stateside, in fact. Papers reacting to President Donald Trump's decision, of course, to nominate this judge, Neil Gorsuch, to the Supreme Court flow.
That's right. Mixed reactions in the U.S. media, depending on where you lie on the political spectrum. Let's start with liberal papers. The Daily Beast, very critical of this pick, says that the judge is enthusiastically pro-life and conservative on all other issues near and dear to evangelicals. And this is a very important thing because, according to the Daily Beast, this pick is actually a payoff to the religious right, essentially people who voted for Donald Trump.
Now, the seat that he's been nominated to fill in has been empty for almost a year now, hasn't it? Ever since Justice Scalia died last February.
That's right. And lots of liberal papers are bitter because if you look at the Constitution, President Barack Obama should have been the one nominating someone to fill this seat. So you can see here the editorial of the New York Times saying he's the nominee for a stolen seat. It's almost been a year since Senate Republicans took this empty Supreme Court seat hostage. Now, the New York Times is very alarmed by this pick as well, saying that if he's confirmed, well, the court will once again have a majority of justices appointed by Republican presidents. And this isn't very good when it comes to environmental regulations or women's access to contraception. And if Trump gets another chance to nominate a justice, well, the consequences could be much more dire.
Conservative papers, though, thrilled with this pick.
That's right. Take a look at the different wording here in the editorial of the Wall Street Journal. Trump's good justice. Now, the Wall Street Journal was a big fan of Antonin Scalia, saying, look, no one can ever really replace him. But Judge Neil Gorsuch is, an excellent attempt by President Trump. Based on his record, he's a distinguished choice who will adhere to the original meaning of the Constitution. What's interesting is you actually have some liberal legal experts who have also applauded this nomination, saying, look, if you look at his track record, he actually does have the right temperament and independence for the Supreme Court. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Exactly, as ever. Let's stay in the US for this next story. Trump's senior advisor, Steve Bannon, is back in the spotlight again, taking a major role on national security policy. Now, usually that would be occupied by senior generals.
That's right. And this move, unprecedented move, really has raised a lot of alarm. Let's go back to the New York Times. So this is another editorial that they're featuring. They say, we've never witnessed a political aide move as brazenly to consolidate power as Stephen Bannon. And it really begs the question, who's calling the shots here? And you can see this interesting headline. Is it President Trump or is it President Bannon? Some have actually gone so far as to call Bannon a Rasputin-like character who's actually pulling all the strings instead of Donald Trump. The Washington Post has an interesting piece on just who is Stephen Bannon, saying, look, he's actually the intellectual center of this new administration. For nearly a decade, he's been advertising his desire to turn America and the world upside down, and he's doing exactly that. So you can see this headline here. For Bannon, the game has only just begun.
Some commentators being quite alarmist. One of those is Michael Moore, the US filmmaker, of course, one of the most famous people to predict that Donald Trump would become president.
That's right. And something he tweeted is going quite viral. You can read about it in the British paper, The Independent. He took to Twitter to say that the US is in the middle of a coup, and it hasn't even realized it yet. Now, The Independent reminds readers just what a coup is. According to Britannica, it's the sudden, violent overthrow of an existing government by a small group. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people are saying that the United States is in the middle of a coup or could be on the verge of a coup. The Independent talks about an article that went quite viral by a Google engineer, Jonathan Zunger. He argues that, for instance, the so-called Muslim ban that we've been talking about, the travel ban put in place by Donald Trump, was actually a trial balloon for a coup.
And that travel ban continued to draw a lot of attention in the press as well.
That's right. Let's start with a cartoon by Chapat in the New York Times. You can see very critical of this travel ban. It's turned the Statue of Liberty. You can see the shadow there, this very menacing Donald Trump with a bludgeon. But what's interesting is the outrage that we're seeing in a lot of liberal media. All these protests that we've been seeing don't necessarily reflect public opinion. If we take a look at Slate, they're talking about the first poll of American public opinion that has actually found quite a lot of support for this travel ban. According to this poll, it was carried out by Reuters and Ipsos, so pretty trustworthy polling institutions. 48% of people agree with the travel ban. 41% of people disagree, so you can see that's why they're talking about the 7-point margin. It is interesting to note, though, that 10% just don't know what to think about it.
Okay. Well, it's not all about Donald Trump today in the US. You put out an article This is about poker.
That's right. You can read about this in The Guardian. It's quite incredible. There's an artificial intelligence machine called Libratus, and it has just beaten 4 of the world's best poker players during a grueling 20-day tournament. It is quite scary. I love the name of this tournament. It was The Brains versus Artificial Intelligence. Competitors spent 11 hours a day in front of their computer screens trying to beat this artificial intelligence machine. So you can see here The Guardian saying that the cards are stacked against humanity. But it's interesting. It points out that some people are actually saying this isn't such bad news because the algorithm that's used on this machine could be used for other strategic reasoning with imperfect information that's required by humans, like planning medical treatment or negotiating business deals. Or this one scared me, settling military and cyber security strategy. I don't know if I really want artificial intelligence doing that. But at least, well, they're good at poker. You don't want to bet your money against them.
True. Don't worry, Flo. You'll never be replaced as a paper reviewer.
Wait and see.
Yeah, you never know. Thanks, Flo. Flo over the papers, and Stephen, of course, on business as well today. In the next half